Jill Ireland tells us about the terrible things that happened during her divorce from David McCallum. Jill Ireland was born on April 24, 1936 in London, England. She grew up being naturally elegant and loving art, which would later make her famous in both her public and private life. From when she was young, she loved performing arts. She learned to dance when she was a kid, and through dancing she learned how to be disciplined and expressive, which helped her acting career later. What made her special back then wasn't just that she was beautiful, but that she was determined to make it in an industry that needed you to be both tough and sensitive. Ireland started her career in the mid-1950s, first showing up in British movies, where people quickly noticed her stunning looks and grace. Her early work included small parts in movies like Simon and Laura in 1955, and she slowly became more well-known in the movie world. As her career grew, people knew her for being able to play different types of roles, easily switching from funny parts to serious dramatic ones. She was just as comfortable in movies as she was on TV, appearing in all kinds of shows including action, drama, and Western shows. One of the biggest parts of Jill Ireland's personal and work life came from her marriages. Her first marriage was to actor David McCallum in 1957. McCallum, who later became famous for playing in The Man from U.N.'s, shared with Ireland all the hard times and good times of living in Hollywood. The couple had 3 sons together, but sadly one of them, Jason, died when he was an adult, which was heartbreaking for Ireland's family. Even though their marriage ended in 1967, Ireland and McCallum stayed connected because of their kids and their shared past. In 1968, Jill Ireland married Charles Bronson, one of Hollywood's most famous action movie stars. Their relationship wasn't just a marriage, it was also a partnership in both life and movies. Bronson and Ireland acted in many movies together, including Breakheart Pass in 1975, Love and Bullets in 1979, and Death Wish 2 in 1982. The way they acted together on screen showed the real-life connection they had, with Bronson often saying his wife was like his anchor and best friend. Their marriage lasted until she died, covering more than 20 years of shared victories, struggles, and total love for each other. While Ireland had a successful career, people remember her most for her brave and very public fight against cancer. In 1984, doctors told her she had breast cancer, a disease that back then, people didn't talk about much and felt ashamed of. Instead of hiding away privately, Jill Ireland chose to face her illness openly, deciding to use her fame to help other people going through the same thing. She wrote 2 books, Life Wish, a personal story of survival, in 1987, and Lifelines in 1989, where she honestly wrote about her journey, the painful treatments, her fears, and her determination to survive. Her honesty inspired tons of women who felt alone in their own fights, giving them not just knowledge but also hope and strength. Ireland's work to help others went way beyond just writing. She became a spokesperson for the American Cancer Society and worked really hard to promote finding cancer early, research, and better treatment for breast cancer. Her openness in talking about how the disease hurt her physically and emotionally broke down barriers at a time when famous people rarely talked about being sick in public. She turned her personal pain into something that could help others, showing incredible courage and caring, even though she was dealing with health problems. Jill Ireland never lost her love for life or her devotion to her family. She and Charles Bronson built a mixed family of 7 children, and she stayed very involved in their lives. Friends and co-workers often said she was warm, elegant, and extremely loyal, someone who carried herself with dignity, even during the hardest times. Jill Ireland wasn't just known as a graceful actress and the longtime partner of action star Charles Bronson, but also as a woman who lived a life full of deep personal struggles, moments of strength, and painful truths that she eventually chose to share openly. One of the hardest parts of her life was her divorce from British actor David McCallum, who had become famous as a heartthrob in the 1960s TV show The Man from U.N.C.L.E. Their marriage, which started in 1957, at first seemed like it had everything needed for a glamorous Hollywood love story. They were young, good-looking, and their careers were taking off. To people watching from outside, they looked like the perfect couple. But as Jill Ireland later told people, what was really happening behind closed doors was completely different. When talking honestly about her divorce from McCallum, Jill didn't hold back from describing how painful it was when their relationship fell apart. "It was a nightmare I couldn't wake up from," she admitted in one interview, explaining that the end of her marriage wasn't just about 2 people growing apart, but about layers of emotional pain that left scars. She described times of intense loneliness even though she was married to someone who was loved by people all over the world. That the irony, as she explained, was that while millions of fans saw McCallum as the charming, smooth spy on television, she often only saw distance and coldness at home. "I felt like I was invisible," Jill confided. "It was like the man I had married disappeared into a role, and I no longer knew who he was when he walked through the door." Another thing that caused Jill pain was how they stopped being able to talk to each other, which got so bad that she started to feel trapped. She remembered how fights would go on late into the night, often leaving her crying and wondering what went wrong. "We lived under the same roof, but it felt like we were living in two completely different worlds," she said. The feeling of being alone got heavier as time went on, and what had once been sweet love between them turned into anger and resentment. For Jill, the emotional damage was devastating. She described waking up each morning with a terrible feeling in her stomach, dreading the cold silence or the mean things they might say to each other later that day. Jill also revealed that one of the worst parts of the divorce was how it affected their children. She and McCallum had 3 sons together, 2 that were born to them and 1 they adopted, and she admitted that the tension in their house affected their kids' daily lives. "I worried constantly about what this was doing to the boys," she explained. "Children are smart. They can feel when love is gone, and they can feel the anger, too. That knowledge haunted me. The guilt of not being able to protect her children from their marriage falling apart weighed heavily on her heart. Making the personal pain even worse was that everyone was watching because they were famous. Tabloids guessed endlessly about what caused their breakup. Some suggested cheating. Others hinted that their egos couldn't get along. Jill, however, insisted that the truth was simpler, but more painful. "We were breaking each other down instead of building each other up. I couldn't breathe in that marriage anymore." The courage it took to walk away was enormous, especially during a time when divorce was still considered shocking, particularly for a famous person. "People judged me without knowing the truth," she said. "They called me cold, unfaithful, or selfish, but only I knew the nights I cried myself to sleep." Eventually, Jill found new love with Charles Bronson, who became not only her partner, but also her rock through some of life's darkest storms, including her long and courageous battle with breast cancer. But she never pretended that the scars from her divorce had completely disappeared. "The past never goes away," she reflected. "It shapes you, sometimes painfully, but you have to learn to live with it and not let it destroy you." Her honesty about the horrible parts of her divorce from David McCallum showed Jill Ireland's fearless approach to life. She believed in facing pain rather than hiding it, and by doing so, she inspired many people who were dealing with their own broken marriages or family struggles. Jill's willingness to put into words the raw feelings of despair, guilt, and ultimate survival gave her story a realness that deeply connected with others. "I want people to know that even when you feel trapped, there is a way forward," she once said. By revealing the pain she went through during and after her divorce, Jill Ireland did more than just tell a painful personal story. She gave a voice to the hidden struggles of countless women who felt silenced by what society expected of them. Her story remains a reminder that behind the Hollywood glamour and carefully planned public images, there are real human beings who go through heartbreak, make difficult choices, and find the strength to start over. Jill Ireland's life took a dramatic turn in 1984 when doctors told her she had breast cancer, a devastating disease that would shape the last part of her life. At a time when people often kept cancer discussions private or felt ashamed about them, Ireland chose a path of openness and courage. Rather than retreat into silence, she used her diagnosis as a way to help others by sharing her deeply personal journey. She wrote about the physical and emotional toll of the disease, how it affected her family, and the challenges of going through tough treatments. Ireland's willingness to write about her experiences transformed her into more than just a beloved actress. She became a public voice for countless women facing the same battle. Her first 2 books, written after her diagnosis, gave the world a rare look into the struggles and victories of living with breast cancer. They weren't just stories about her own life, but rather honest